Welcome back to Canonymous. Political news has all been carbon tax, carbon tax, carbon tax. Everywhere you go. So much so, you think Trudeau was taxing the very air leaving our bodies. I wouldn't be surprised if he did that, the rat man that he is. Obviously, the Liberals continue to rave about the carbon tax and how great it is, while pretty much the rest of the entirety of Canada disagrees, except for a few idiots on Twitter and the Environment Minister himself. Have a look.
The PBO says that the carbon price is a net loss for most Canadian households when you go beyond just what they pay in the fuel charge and what they get back in the rebates when you factor in the whole economic picture. Is the PBO wrong in that assessment?
Well, I think the PBO was the first one to admit in his report that he did not factor in the impacts of climate change. So it's not the full picture. It's a partial picture.
Let's flip this around for what he really wants to say, which is, PBO, what the hell? All right, be more liberal. Lie. We're politicians. All we do is lie. We tell lies. We give nothing but lies. So help me God, frickin' lie. But he can't say that. So instead...
And as we know, the cost of climate change have basically, and Arjit could talk about that. Like we've gone from average cost per year in Canada about a little over a decade ago of $200 million per year to average cost of $2 billion per year. It will go up because of the forest fires, the floodings that we've had last year. So Canadians are paying for that. And Pierre Poilievre will never talk about that. In fact, he can't. I haven't heard him say the words climate change before.
I've heard him say it when he was trying to figure out how to measure the freaking thing. They want to blame the PBO, saying he's not taking into consideration the full picture. But he's taking in the full picture that he can see using the numbers that he has to paint what he can see, the damage it's causing. But when you have no numbers, you have no measurements, you can't just be like, hey, in the future it's going to do something. You have no goal, except for the elusive bring down emissions. What do you want from people? You're running an experiment without any way of tracking if the experiment is working. I think people are getting it wrong. Yes, the carbon tax is an issue. I don't think it's an issue in just the carbon tax is making everything expensive. Rather, the carbon tax is an excuse for corporate greed to take effect. They are using carbon taxing as a means to raise their prices, couple that with inflation, and they can put any price they want. Now, Pierre mentions this. If you tax the farmers, if you tax the truck drivers, etc., etc. And every hike and every chance that they get, they're going to hike it up more. Is the eradication of the carbon tax going to actually reduce anything? Honestly, my fear is that it really won't, because the surface of it is just an excuse for corporations to hike up everything. We need to go after them. They're the ones that need laws, restrictions, monitoring to make sure they don't just run away with this stuff. Because corporations will keep the prices where they have them, but also make more money because things may go down a little bit and it'll cost them less.
Monsieur Guilbeault, your predecessor, Catherine McKenna, has said that your government has not explained this policy. Canadians don't understand it, basically. So you're talking about no shrimp in the St. Lawrence, and you're talking about all the forest fires and everything. Do you think they understand the link between carbon pricing and the impact on the environment? Has that been explained? Can you explain it? How does carbon pricing mitigate the impact on the environment?
Well, as my department presented just before Christmas, carbon pricing will account for about a third of our emission reduction by 2030. And unfortunately, when it comes to climate change, there's no on-off switch. It's going to take a long time before we can tackle this issue. Just like it's taking a long time. For example, I had the privilege and honor to go and pay my respect to Prime Minister Mulroney this morning. He was responsible for the 1987 Montreal Protocol on ozone depletion. We know now that the ozone layer will have recovered from decades of human abuse, probably by 2060. More or less.
I like the fact that he brought up the Montreal Protocol of 1987. I remember when I was a kid in science class and you hear all about there's a hole in the ozone layer. So how did they go about fixing this problem? They phased out the production and consumption of ozone-depleting substances that were commonly used in products such as refrigerators, air conditioners, fire extinguishers, and aerosols. So it sounds like they went to the corporations, had them make the adjustments, and people just bought what was available to them because whatever. That's what humans do. We're not making the freaking thing. We're going to buy what's easily available to us, what's convenient. It's almost like if you have better control over grocery prices, housing prices, the natural nature stuff that should be freely available for all humans and the rest of humanity would have no issue or problem coming along, as long as it's good and beneficial for everybody. But for this particular issue, instead of going to the corporations, they've come directly to the end people, which is the consumer. Instead of going to the top of the pyramid, they're starting at the bottom. You've seen Justin Trudeau and the NDP try to have conversations with corporations. Try in quotations. We don't really know what these meetings are like, but you can't have conversations with a demon anyways. We all know this. You have to exorcise them. Have you not seen any of the gazillion movies that they've made? You have to restrain them. You have to stop their power from taking over you, and you must smite them. So this means putting in legislation that tackles shelters and housing and food, and also throw in water and throw in insurance in there too, because our insurance is ridiculous, okay? But shelter, food, water, BBLs, the essential human needs that have to be monitored. You can't leave them out to the free market, because when the free market has control, it will abuse. This is what humans do. We're terrible. Let's take a look at this video right here that shows Montreal when they hired developers to include social and affordable housing.
There's no shortage of new residential buildings going up in the southwest of Montreal, but the official opposition at City Hall says something is missing from these construction projects and is putting the blame on the Plante administration.
Well, I believe that it's strictly catastrophic.
Passed in 2021, Projet Montréal's bylaw for a diverse metropolis had the goal of forcing developers to include 20% social, affordable, and family housing in projects bigger than 4,800 square feet. But 2 years later, Enoratel says according to the city's own data, the legislation has failed.
We noticed that over the past 2 years, there's been no affordable housing that have been built. No affordable housing in 2 years.
There were 150 agreements between the city and developers between April 2021 and May 2023, leading to the construction of 7,100 units. Not one was an affordable housing unit. Developers just choose to pay a fine instead of following the rules.
What did they choose to do? They decided to pay a simple fee of $24 million, the cost of business for this one venture. A small fee. I mean, Diddy paid more than that, and he only abused one person, not a whole building's worth. Well, actually, there are so many more allegations coming out that might not even be true either. And it's like a one-time fee. You don't really have to pay it again. You just need to make profit for the rest of your life, which is what they're counting on. We have another video here much like that. This company, caught gouging prices, apologizes, pays $50 million. I wonder how much they actually reduce their prices by after. I'd be surprised if anything at all.
Canada Bread has been fined $50 million after pleading guilty to its role in a criminal price-fixing scheme that inflated the wholesale price of bread in this country. This is being described as the highest price-fixing fine ever imposed by a Canadian court. The Competition Bureau of Canada says Canada Bread Co., a subsidiary of Mexico-based baking company Grupo Bimbo, pleaded guilty to 4 counts of price fixing. The Bureau adds the bread maker admitted to arranging with its competitor to increase the price for various bagged and sliced bread products.
The problem is when these things happen, there's no repercussions for them. You pay a fee, but it's not $50 million and $24 million, and then, you have to rebuild those houses that you promised to make, or you have to, drop your prices now and hand out free bread or something. I don't know. It's like that's the kind of things that you want. These are the kind of rules that are needed to be in place in order to have things work out. This is why you need stuff like rent control. Otherwise, people will take advantage of that. Everyone wants to look at the carbon tax. You know what I mean? You got the liberals saying people are getting way more than they're paying. And you have the conservatives, the corporations are putting the pricing on the people, which they do. I feel like this is all hiding, or not hiding rather, it's just kind of missing the point. It rattles everyone up. It's not without merit, but it gets all the provinces together. It gets everybody against Trudeau, which is great for a conservative party, as long as they go after the corporations when they're in power. It's fun to watch. I'm getting a hoot out of it, but truly I think it comes down to figuring out how to end this corporate greed, putting in proper legislation to stop these corporations from taking over Canada. And this is something that conservatives have not really talked about. It's great to rally the troops. Love it. But can we get some real logical decisions on how you're going to stop it? Yeah, you can chop the carbon tax, but there's going to be something else in the future that's going to let them do the same thing they did now. Carbon taxing is just a recent one. But that all being said, you have a lot of politicians who work with corporations, who get funds from corporations, and they have to please them in some way every now and again. So is there really a way for us, the people, to not kind of get screwed over at the end of the day? Trudeau's plan doesn't work. I don't think carbon tax is a smart, intelligent move. It's supposed to be neutral, but reality is that it doesn't really do anything, and the gov is pocketing like $2 billion. Yeah, they give back like $18 billion, but they're pocketing another $2 billion. So they don't give back everything, which is kind of what he continuously keeps saying. It's what Trudeau keeps saying. Really just seems like some kind of sneak tactic to take money, which is what everyone knows it is. To do what with? I wonder. People can't just drop everything and pick up electric vehicles. So even if there is some sort of underlining help the environment in there, and I want to believe that maybe there is. But again, people can't just drop what they have and pick up an electric vehicle or a hybrid vehicle. You can't just buy a new vehicle just because, this will, I can do this right now. It's so easy. I have so much disposable income. This inflated economy right now is nothing for me. Like the average everyday human is going to food banks now. It's ridiculous. Not to mention electric car parts cost more than regular gas-powered car parts. So you're losing money there. I'm gonna cut it right there. I'm done with this. Like, comment, and subscribe, and come back for more.